My name is Leonard Kim. In the last year, I've been recognized as a top marketing influencer by Forbes, a top digital marketer by Entrepreneur, or a top digital and youth marketer by Inc. magazine, and a top personal branding expert by Entrepreneur magazine. But it all didn't start out that way, and things are really exciting right now. But in the beginning, it started out in a very dark place. In fact, it was extremely dark. Have you ever been afraid of failing? For me, that was my life up until I was about 28 years old. Now, much like you in the audience and those watching at home, I always wanted to go out there and chase that American dream, to have the wife by my side, to have the white picket fence, the yard, home, and the kids running around. I wanted all these things, and I wanted to have the car and all the other things that came with the American dream. And the reason I wanted all these things is because that's how my culture shaped me. From the conversations with my friends, colleagues, and coworkers, to the sitcoms, to the movies, and the music videos. Every single part of society kept telling me that in order to be successful, I needed to go out there and chase that American dream and earn a lot of money. But I was never really able to achieve that, and the reason for that is because I was constantly running from my fears. Now, because I was running from my fears, what ended up happening is all the businesses I worked on, they all kind of fell apart. Like, I used to work at a lead generation firm, and we used to sell leads, but no one wanted to buy our leads. And before that, I worked in a real estate firm and an investment fund. But the stock market and the real estate market crashed, so that all fell apart. And even before that, I worked at a music startup, and I lost all my savings, and I was like piled in debt. And after all that, like I got to the point where I had like so much anxiety that I started getting like panic attacks. And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my life. And it was really hard for me to get out of bed and try again. So because all of these things happened, what ended up happening was like the electricity in my home shut off. And then next thing you know, it was dark and you couldn't see a single thing. So what I had to do was, when it was like time to go shower, I'd be showering in the dark. For me, that was like really tough. It's like, I had no clue how the water even worked. When I was hungry, I'd have to go to the local 7-Eleven, pick up a burrito, bring it back home, then I'm like, oh wait, I need to microwave this thing. I don't have electricity. So I'd have to drag that microwave, pull it into the hallway of the apartment complex, plug it into the power outlet, set it on the ground and be like, here you go, burrito, I'm gonna charge you up and eat you. And things were like really bad at that time, and I really didn't know what to do. And you would think that things would get better, but I couldn't go out and hang out with my friends because I had no money, and I make excuses as why I couldn't go out. Then on top of that, like, I was way too embarrassed to date too. Ultimately, I got an eviction notice, and I was back living with my grandmother. And at that point, I really had no idea what I was supposed to do. Luckily for me, a close friend of mine, he gave me a call, and he's like, hey, what's going on with your life? What's happening? Like, I haven't seen you for a while. And I didn't really want to tell him what was going on because I was so embarrassed about every single thing that happened. And he's like, come on, man, just tell me. So I told him, and I'm like, hey, look, I'm living with my grandma. I have absolutely no clue what I'm doing with my life anymore. And he was like, you know what? Why don't you come live on my sofa for $100 a month? And at that moment, I'm like, oh my God, score. This is so great. This is my opportunity I need to go out there and turn my life all around. And, you know, things started getting a little better. I was like, oh, I got this job at American Honda, earning a little more than minimum wage. And things feel like they're getting a little bit better. But it really wasn't, because I still wanted to go out there and do these big things with the American dream, like reconcile with my former girlfriend, go out there and earn a lot of money with the business. But every single thing I tried just kept falling apart. I thought it was time to like examine what my future would be like. So I went 10, 20, 30, 40, even 50 years ahead. And I pictured myself at my funeral. And I realized something. No one was going to show up, kind of like this picture. All these chairs were empty. And I was like, wow. The reason no one's ever going to show up is because I chased away anyone who ever loved me. I screwed over all my friends. No one trusted me. And I was a complete and utter failure. So at that moment, I made a decision. And that decision was to end it all. So I got out a letter, and I started writing. And in that letter, I said goodbye. But I was too scared to send it to my grandma, and too scared to send it to my mom. So I sent it to my former girlfriend instead. Like, here you go. And surprisingly, that letter was like the thing that completely changed my entire life. It was like the weirdest thing because once she received that letter, she called me and she forced me to be with her. And as you can see here, she was kind of yelling and everything. What she said was, "Oh my God, Leonard, how can you be so selfish? How can you do this? Think about your grandma. What's she going to think? How could you even do this to your whole entire family? This has got to be the most selfish thing I've ever seen you do in your entire life." Now, for me, I'm a firm believer that where you are today is exactly where you're supposed to be. Where I was at that moment was exactly where I was supposed to be. Like, due to all the decisions I made because I was running from my failure, like, everything fell apart. And I'm like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. But I thought about it for a moment, and she said selfish. And I kind of reflected back on things. Selfish? That really wasn't how my grandfather raised me. My grandfather, Robert L. Landis, he fought in 3 wars, World War II, Vietnam, and the Korean War. He was an all-American hero. He went out there and he retired from the biggest steel manufacturer in the US. He brought my family over from Korea so we could have a life here. He gave me the opportunity to be born as an American citizen, and he used to sit me on his lap and just tell me stories while we were growing up. It was like the greatest thing ever. But it wasn't just what he did for me and my family, it's what he did for the community as well. He volunteered at the school cafeteria. Whenever someone needed help with something, he'd be there like fixing up like everything that could possibly fix because he was like a handyman. And whenever someone needed advice, he'd give him his undivided attention and turn his ear to them and just listen with his full intent. And the funny thing was, he was living his life full of care and full of giving back to others. And he was always happy. And here was me, completely miserable. And I had that aha moment because I realized that I only cared about 3 people. That was me, myself, and I. I realized that in that moment that the reason I was unable to go out there and help others the way he did was because I was scared of being hurt by others. I wanted to care for others, I wanted to build relationships, but I couldn't do any of these other things because I was scared that other people would hurt me. And that's the moment I first recognized my fear. And because I recognized my fear, what I wanted to do was I wanted to go out there and give back to the world, much like how my grandfather gave back to others. But I mean, you just saw my resume. It was full of broken dreams. There was nothing really going on. So I really had nothing to give back, right? But I thought about it for a moment to when someone once told me that, Leonard, no one's absolutely useless. You can always serve as a bad example. And I was like, wait. That's me. I'm that bad example. I could go out there and tell everyone all the mistakes I made in my life so they won't have to go out there and repeat the same things that I did. And I was like, you know what? It's time for me to go out there and face my fear. But how was I going to do that? I wasn't really sure. But I really thought back on something. Back in high school, I used to send like love notes and like poems to girls. And he'd be like, ew, why are you sending this to me? And like, I write some more in like class in English, then I get a C on my paper. So girls didn't believe in my writing. School didn't believe in my writing. I didn't believe in my writing either, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use this as a delivery method to get my word out there so other people could hear about my failures so they don't have to go through those same mistakes. So I went on the internet. I started typing something up. It had all the details about my life. And I was like, this is really scary. If I click publish on this, the entire world could see everything about me. What are they going to do? Are they going to judge me, mock me, ridicule me, call me a loser, call me a failure, something worse? Like, what could really happen once this information's out there? So I started shaking, and I started trembling. I was like, oh no. I don't know if I had the courage to actually click that button because everything I've ever done would be out into the world for the whole entire world to see. And I had so much fear like clogging all my decisions at that time, and I didn't know what to do. I was like frozen with indecision. I just wanted to run away. I wanted to click delete on that whole entire post so no one would see it. But I finally gathered up the courage to go out there and DSA it. What DSA it is do something about it. That's step 3 of the process to let your fears guide you. Once I clicked publish, what ended up happening is I really got passionate about what I was doing. I started writing every single moment I got. And on the bus ride to work. I didn't have a car at the time because I was so poor. I pulled out my little BlackBerry and I typed like 1 to 2 posts so I could put them on the internet. Once I got to work, every single free moment I got, like when I used the restroom and things like that, I'd be typing up another post. On the way home, on that bus ride after I took a few naps, I started typing some more. And next thing you know, I was writing like 5 to 6 articles every single day. While I was writing, like, I went out there on Christmas, New Year's Eve, every major holiday since I had no friends, and just started typing away more and more articles. And the results of that was like pretty interesting. Like the first few days, I had a few views. In the first few weeks, I had a few comments. In the first few months, someone liked my content enough that they shared it with over 1,000 people. Then all of a sudden, I had a snowball effect. 6 months in, I had 2 million reads on my content. 1 year, 5 million reads. A year and a half, 10 million reads. Now, when you fast forward to today, like the media interviews me like every single week for all these different publications and like TV, you know, articles online, radio, all this random stuff. Like I'm called a top marketing influencer right now, so I'm like labeled as an expert in my space. And I created all these genuine relationships with others and created all these real new friendships. And it's kind of surprising how all this happened, and it's been shocking to me. Then one day, I went out to go eat at a Chinese food restaurant, and I was sitting there with a few friends. And you know, Chinese food is really good, so I was pretty excited about the moment. I pulled out the menu, and I was going to order, but someone tapped me on the shoulder. And then he's like, "Hey, are you that guy Leonard?" And I'm like, looking at him, I'm like, he doesn't look like a waiter. Do I owe him money? Who is this guy? Like, I was so scared. I didn't have any idea who he was. And I was like, yeah, I'm that guy Leonard. Do I know you? And then, like, he turned back to me, and he was like, "Oh, my God, you're that guy Leonard Kim. I've been reading your articles about overcoming failure, and I'm so glad I got the opportunity to meet you because all your content has been inspiring me so much." And at that moment, I kind of realized that I really stumbled upon something that was really great, something that was able to connect with millions in the world, something that was able to go out there and like transform the lives of others. And I just kept doing what I did, and success just kept compiling up and piling up and piling up. And now I'm up here speaking in front of everyone here. But the funny thing is, like, the only way for this to ever happen in your life is if you let your fears guide you. Now, no matter where you are in life, you're always going to have fear. Like me, I'm scared when I talk to a new person. I'm scared when I go out there and I get a media interview. I'm even scared to be up here on this TEDx stage today because it's like, what kind of things would go wrong? Like this PowerPoint. And I use this fear as like an indicator that says that I'm onto something great. Like if I'm scared of something, I realize that I shouldn't run away from it. I shouldn't be scared. I shouldn't freeze up. I should use it as an indicator that I'm onto something great, something that would be able to connect with others and relate to them as well. You could be a college student who wants to go out there and become a sound engineer, but your parents want you to be a doctor or a lawyer. Or you could be a budding entrepreneur who wants to go out there and build a successful business, but you just don't know where to start. Or you could be just like me, and you could have failed at absolutely everything in life, where no one wanted anything to do with you, but you just want to connect with the world. Like, it doesn't really matter where you are in life. You have to let your fears guide you. And the way you do that is by following these 3 steps. Step 1, you have to recognize it. You have to figure out exactly what it is that you're afraid of. After you figure out what you're afraid of, the next thing you need to do is you need to face it. And facing it, that's probably the scariest part because you know what you're doing right there. You're looking the devil straight in the eyes. And if I was looking the devil straight in the eyes, I want to freeze up. I'd probably freeze up. Then I want to run away. And you can't run away. You can't freeze up. You can't do any of those things because you have to de-essay it and do something about it. Because only by letting your fears guide you will you ever be able to go down the path to the pursuit of greatness. Thank you. Bye.